West Mifflin Area School District work session agenda meeting on Thursday, April 15th, 2021 is being held in the West Mifflin Area Middle School, 81 Commonwealth Avenue, West Mifflin, PA 15122. Meeting begins at 6 p.m. Opening exercises, pledge the flag.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Aher.
Here.
Alexandra. Bennett.
Here.
Engler.
Here.
Costello.
Here.
Marshall. Present. Mattis. DeSenzo. Blazevich.
Here. Presentations, we will be having a presentation of the student board representatives. That's next week at the regular meeting. No addendum items. Hearing of the citizens is next week. No information items. Board secretary, business managers report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next week on the agenda under 81, we have a number of policy changes that we'll have the first reading of. There's nothing that would be financed under C purchasing and contracting. It's a recommendation to the board to authorize the bid opening of the bids that we advertised a couple months ago for Friday, April 23rd, at 10 a.m. And number two, it's recommended that the board approve an agreement with Delphi Education to provide special education services at their facility for the 21-22 school year for budget as presented. We approve the minutes with all the reports. Refunds subtracted from expenditures. Right now, we only have 3 invoices, 2 from LPS and 1 from a final invoice from a auditor.
If I may, you will have our invoices, and as requested, we'll have the monthly or the quarterly litigation invoices. That will include personnel issues that we have litigation on, a couple of the other smaller litigations in middle school, things like that, and then all of the tax appeals will be in there too. They all went up.
Yeah, actually, right before I got here, I did receive an email with 6 different invoices. So those will be on next week. We have H, requisitions others. We did have 3 executive sessions, which were properly noted. And that's the conclusion of the Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Esper. District operations.
Mr. President, we'd like to recommend the board approve the proposed 2021 summer work schedule as presented. Also, we'd like to recommend to the board we approve the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee Autism Awareness Fundraiser for the week of April 26th through the 30th.
Superintendent's report.
Under student services, Mr. President, we have nothing this week. Student activities have nothing at this time. Nothing under, down on C, buildings and grounds. We have 1 facility request for the girls' basketball conditioning for the month of April, May, and June. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
9 professional personnel, non-certified personnel, number 10. Athletic personnel, 11. Substitutes will all be covered next week.
That will be all covered next week, sir.
Thank you. Conferences will be covered next week.
Correct?
Thank you. Board president's correspondence, there were none. Executive session discussion, we haven't had it yet. That will be held after this work session. Board reports, committee reports.
I'll present my skills center report next week.
Thank you, David.
Under committees, we'll start with buildings and grounds. Just to remind everyone, Saturday, April 17th, will be our liquidation sale over at Emerson. Elementary with all our inventory and school type items that will be up for sale. Mr. Esper, would you like to speak to that at all?
The sale will be held 8 to 1. It's cash only. Everything is sold as it is, and the items will be sold on a first come, first served basis.
Next, we'll ask Mrs. Wells if she'd like to give a punch list update.
Yes, the punch list is really dwindling down, which is good news. We are finishing working on the door props. They should be done at the end of next week. And the last work over at Claire Morton to put the grass seed in and fix the sidewalks that have some flaws in them. They're going to do that as soon as the weather breaks a little bit more. And the ADM controls, MES controls, we're still in the process of tweaking those. They're getting the floor plans and the computers for us. We're going to have another training session on this coming Wednesday. So we will hopefully wrap that up, but that's going to be a continuing thing with them helping us with that. And I have moved to my new office, so that's where we're going to have the meeting.
And your phone extension stayed the same?
My phone extension is the same.
We'd like to ask the board or the Buildings and Grounds Committee to approve putting the auxiliary gym floor, is that correct?
That's correct.
The auxiliary gym floor on the summer work list.
What building?
That's the high school. And I can explain that a little bit. What we mean by doing the auxiliary gym floor, we do the floors every year. We do, we sand them down just a little bit and we recoat them. So we never take the lines off. We do that once a year at most of the gyms that they need it. This is totally sanding the floor like we did the main gym a couple of years ago. Totally sanding it, repainting lines, fixing the boards that need fixed, and there are several in the auxiliary gym. So they bill us, they give us so many of those that they fix while they're doing it, but there'll be a little bit of time and materials. In the main gym, it wasn't a lot, but there will be an extra added expense for them to fix those boards. And then when they finish doing that, they will repaint the lines and we'll recoat it.
We have a bid on that already.
I got one last year, so that bid for the auxiliary main gym was $24,120. So I have not reached out to the gentleman that did it, and it's the same guy that did the main gym. So if, with your approval, we do this, I'd reach out to him and see if we can schedule it for the summer.
Is that a
They
co-star pricing?
get tied up. Pardon me?
Is that a co-star pricing?
That's CoStar pricing.
And we do have money left in both of the construction funds that we can use for construction type upgrades and that, and we could use the money from the construction funds, so that will not come from the general fund.
Cindy, when was that bid given to you?
The bid,
Yeah, how old is it? How old is it?
I'm sorry,
The 24,000, how old is it?
how old is it?
The only reason I ask is everything in the world is going up in price.
Yeah, and it probably will. I got it in January of 20.
So that's asking us.
It's just a
Yeah,
little,
well, that
it's
price.
over a year, yeah.
Yeah, we'd probably want to get a new quote.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I can do that, I just wanted to make sure.
The floor is badly used.
Sure.
Yeah.
Does the committee would like us to continue moving on with that?
I'm good with that.
Yes.
Rita?
Yes.
Honey's not here.
All right, moving down the list, finance. Mr. Esper, would you like to take the audit report, please?
Well, the audit report, we did approve it last week, and it was uploaded every place that it needs to be, and we did receive a letter from PDE saying that it was compliant, with all accounting standards, which is good. And we want to talk about the
Did you get to talk about the letter from PD?
Yeah, we received a letter from PD.
We are also looking at, since we're bringing speech back in-house, or through a third-party provider, we're looking to start doing our own access billing, and that does with medical assistance for students with disabilities. We've reached out, and I have to commend Mrs. Silvas for spearheading that, bringing in an expert in the field to help start training us and getting us ready to do that. Because once our third party takes over doing the access billing, we will not, the IU will not bill for our speech services at that time. So this is something we want to move forward with. So we're waiting for a proposal from Suzanne De Silva, who is actually doing the access billing at Upper St. Clair, as well as she did it for some of the charter schools. So she comes very highly recommended to us. So we're going to move forward with getting her proposal for the board.
Can you explain a little bit more about what the heck access billing means? I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood and you just explained it.
Access billing?
Yeah.
Access billing is what we go through the special ed process, or you go through the IEP process. If a student is on medical assistance, there are certain aspects that we can bill for and get reimbursement from the government. Our paraprofessionals will have to then have first aid and CPR, so they'll be able to bill. Our speech therapists for certain things, they'll be able to bill. OT and PT are able to bill. Certain special ed services will be able to bill.
Get reimbursed.
Yes, yes. If not, then the money's just left on the table.
Yeah.
So we're going after what's being left on the table. And actually, there's some processes in place that aren't beneficial to us right now as it's being conducted, so.
So this is for us to recoup money
Correct.
that we haven't been recouping potentially, or should be recouping?
The IU has been recouping it for us,
Yeah.
but they also keep a portion.
I see.
So this is,
Bringing it in-house.
yes.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, moving down to the athletics and activities. We sent out earlier this week, we tried to standardize our procedures and processes. We sent out as a draft version of an athletic handbook that we would like our committee to give us either approval to continue formulating and putting together, or if this is something you do not want to see, or you want something else being done, this would be a nice time to tell us before we get involved.
Well, being that I'm the only one here on
Yes.
this committee, minus, I don't know if we even form on these committees or not, because I don't think they're actually things, but I think we're moving forward with it, no matter what. Don't stop them unless you hear otherwise, I guess.
No, it's actually the secondary principals, our athletic director, Mr. Solomon, have started to review it already. Mr. Solomon already pointed out, we need to update our heat acclimation process and that kind of thing. So it's coming along. So we're adding things as we go.
And this is something that most schools have anyway.
Yes.
We just did not have one, or at least a recent copy.
Yes. Yeah, we didn't have anything updated or procedures or policies. Yes.
Thank you.
Under technology, I'll let Mr. Solomon speak to the power school.
Well, as everybody knows, we purchased a couple add-on items for our power school. Our power school is our student information system. In particular, the one that we purchased was the PD Plus. This has been a very nice program. I'm getting ready to send it out to the principals and then out to the staff. This is going to be able to train the teachers and the staff and the secretaries on how to be more efficient and time saving when they're dealing with the power school. There's a lot of things on power school that not everybody knows about, and so this is definitely going to help with that process. The state verification, this was new to me before we purchased it. This is definitely helping with making sure that our reports to the state when dealing with students, particularly in the PIMS process, is accurate and correct. This is also going to help with any student billing. particularly when with the charter schools, any types of alternative or out-of-district placements. The last one is Naviance. That's the last one that we've been looking at. I'm going to anticipate that being a recommendation soon. And what Naviance is, it's a college and career readiness software. And it's going to help students, particularly the school counselors, with their 339 plan and making sure that all the artifacts are easily transferred throughout their educational career, along with giving some opportunities for a curriculum for the younger kids to watch some videos and do some light exercises for a job or school exploration, up into older students that can see true prices in SAT scores and that sort of information that's needed before they go on the college track. So it's pretty neat. And once that's settled, I'll definitely invite Mrs. Shields, who has been, she's the department head for the school councils. I'd like to invite her to come to give us a short demonstration. I think that you'll enjoy it. And so that takes care of the power school.
We'd like to ask the committee to recommend that we purchase the Naviance suite as part of the Power School family. And again, as Mr. Sullivan said, it's a warehouse for our career artifacts for our students, as well as has a lot of other capabilities within it. So if the committee is okay, we'd like to, and Mr. Sullivan, we have a price on that, correct?
Yes, Mr. Souls, I'd like to add one more thing that you remind me of when you were speaking. Currently, what we're using in its place is, it was good years ago, but it's just not up to date. It's a lot of patchwork by different programs. So it's not equal going upwards. And making, keeping the commitment to our major 3 programs, which is the Microsoft, the Schoology, and also the Power School, want to keep it in that family, because as I'm learning throughout this process, it's very interesting how all of these are interacting so well together. Now they're actually adding buttons on each other to easily exchange you to the next one or transfer the information to each other. So although it sounds very difficult and in-depth, once you start using it, it's actually a wonderful option. And that was one of the reasons why we started looking at the Naviance to begin with. And if you take the career cruising for the money that costs, there's CC Sparks we're using, there's EverFi, and there's a 4th one that we touch base once in a while. When you're talking about all 4 of them and now going into one, I just want to keep that in mind as we're going forward. Because we're looking at a price now, anytime that you buy any type of software, they have the normal cost, and then it comes with a one-time upfront installation cost. That's not only Power School, that would be Skyward, that would be any of the other systems out there. That's just how this business operates. So what it comes down to, I believe it's a little bit over $20,000 for the first time. And then the following year, you're probably going to look at probably high 13, almost 14,000. That's what I'm estimating at this point. And that is all on cost per student. Anytime you deal with any of these, it deals with cost per student. So if you heard that Clarendon was a lot cheaper, they got it. Well, North Allegheny, of course, would be a lot more expensive because it goes per student cost. But I can tell you, the knowledge, the one thing that I always fear, and being a high school principal myself for over 10 years, that I never want to see a student go to a college that they didn't know everything about and end up dropping out and having $10,000+ in student debt. You know, I'd like them to know, you know, as best as we can here, preparing them for the knowledge of, you know, what to expect, at least from a financial aspect. So I think that this will definitely even itself out as time goes on.
Is that 20,000 for Power School, for all of Power School? Or is that just for the nine?
This is just for the non-youth.
And is that to be used by high school students or all students?
This is going to be used by K to 12.
Okay.
Because the 339 plan, which is the school counselor plan, it's very in-depth. Normally they have a presentation for us, but with the COVID, that had to be put on hold. But I know Mrs. Ahern, she has been there in the past, she knows the quality plan is. But what happens is, starting in 3rd grade, they have to start having proof, which they call artifacts, is part of their college career readiness by the new state standards. So what happens is, once they now do these, which of course is age appropriate, the 3rd grade won't be like an 8th grade, but now they'll go into their hold. And when they go from 3rd to 4th, and then of course the other transitions during their school career here, and that's another reason why we went this route. We wanted to make sure that we were getting ourselves involved with somebody who's been around a while and is going to be around a while. Because we don't want to have to be jumping. That's the worst thing, and you know that. You learn all about one computer software, and 2 years later you're switching. So, but anyway, getting back to the point, it will be for K to 12.
I'm okay with that.
Me too.
I prefer to do it. We need to put it on the agenda.
Yes.
And also, just a step back, with Mrs. DeClaire doing our state verification, she found 19 students this week that are no longer in the district that was being charged to us by an outside charge. So that's already paid for itself. Going down to the next item, the E-rate material, we would like to order or recommend the committee permitting us to go ahead with our E-rate order. I believe it's roughly about $204,000.
It's $209,310 from Connectivity Communications. That was part of Steve Port's E-rate presentation, and that's to upgrade all the switches and wires and stuff, to upgrade much of the infrastructure to make everything work quicker and more efficient.
And we want to move forward with that because there's a timeline between the ordering and then the installation. The longer we wait, the longer it's going to take. So we would like to get that taken care of as soon as possible. So we'd like to ask the committee to recommend to put the ordering of the E-rate material on the agenda for next week.
You okay with that?
Me too.
Centrix, we're utilizing right now, we roughly have 480 licenses district-wide. We are taking that down to about 150, if not 125, due to the lack of use anymore of that system. And what that's going to help us do is free up disk space or places we could save things at our site. I believe Mr. Ford told us we were using about 12 terabyte, which I don't know what that is. But if we would go down, that would knock that down significantly, so we would not have to rent or lease any more storage space.
Plus you'll save on licensing costs. You won't pay as much for licensing costs.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a renewal every year will be.
It's a renewal every year, yeah.
There will be a formal communication coming out to our faculty and students. They will be keeping the computers over the summer. We will not be collecting them at the end of the school year. So that'll be coming out and making that official.
I guess I have a couple of questions, and maybe Mr. Fort is probably best asked for that. But there's going to need to be some sort of way to update these computers before next school year, and what the plans are around that. We don't have to talk about it here because he isn't here, but I'd be curious to know what the plan is.
We asked that question as well, and he says with how they're set up now and with our system upgrades, he's gonna be able to push that out or not.
And with the grant money, we are creating a laptop, notebook, Chromebook, Winbook
Yeah.
replacement program.
Right,
So we know every year what we're gonna replace with the grant money.
yeah, yep. I guess I would plan for at the beginning of next school year to have some days where people bring their computers up because maybe they haven't plugged them in all summer. So he's not able to actually get to them to upgrade them. So as students come back at the end of the year, at the end of the summer and start thinking about next school year, those computers would have to be connected to the network for him to do that.
We could add that.
Just something to think about.
We can add that right under developing a summer list of
There's
projects.
some list of things. It's just a plan for, you're gonna need to get this, maybe, a certain percentage of students' computers who just didn't turn them on over the summer.
Absolutely. And then we also work with Mr. Ford. We now meet our technology crew, myself, Mr. Esper, Mr. Solomon, Mr. Ford, and Mr. Detweiler from Ford Solutions. We meet every Tuesday now, once a month, on the second Tuesday of the month, to develop these projects and lists, just to make sure we have some continuity there.
Can I ask you one quick follow-up to that comment? Is Ford Business bringing other people up to help us as part of that effort
Yes.
for certain things? Because I know it was part of our
He has-
contract with them, the last one we approved.
Mr. Detweiler has made the people available upon Mr. Ford's request for ours. He did send some people up last month, as well as he also sends one of his people up to help Mr. Frisco in the video lab. We're having some issues there, so they're working with us wherever we ask.
Thank you.
Under education, we had a meeting earlier this month with the Duquesne administration, the state, PDE, as well as East Allegheny, Mr. Johnson. Duquesne is moving forward with pulling their 7th grade back next year, and they will be sending us some type of formal notice that that's going to take place. So we'll wait to take action when we get that formal notification. I will turn the math curriculum and math materials over to Mr. Solomon.
Well, as you know, this is the first year of the district's new curriculum cycle, with math being first. And I know that the two department heads, one was the elementary and one was the secondary, they have been reviewing and investigating different curriculums and textbooks to purchase for this upcoming year. I believe at this point, they now have made a decision, which I believe is going to be from the same company, which I was kind of happy about because that leads for a good continuity from definitely K to 9th grade as we move up. We're anticipating the May work session for them to come to give a small snapshot of what's actually taking place with that, so we can understand, so everybody here can understand exactly what they're doing. So I would anticipate that. As far as the TCA, the Titan Cyber Academy, this is going to be something new that we haven't done before. This summer, for summer credit recovery, summer school, this will be a synchronous learning opportunity for students. Students did want to retake a class or have to retake a class. And so that will be coming out soon for the advertisement for teachers. That was all set up by Dr. Plitka. He saw the need to take advantage of this, and to be honest with you, I think this is going to be a wonderful pilot opportunity as we head into the fall.
I have a quick question on that.
Yes.
Is that the only way to take classes in the summer?
Yeah, we were also going to offer asynchronous through the traditional software that we have as well, or how the cyber is right now. So that opportunity would be there too. As far as, there's other ways of doing it, but those are going to be the two recommended.
And I'm just not familiar, I just don't know. I'm assuming you have summer school all the time for every year, non-COVID related years, right? You have some students who need summer education, right?
Yes.
But this time, with the talk of COVID, education loss and things like that,
Yes.
will there be more investment into summer programming for students to catch up? Or are you
Sure.
anticipating
And that started already with the tutoring. And the tutoring is going to continue on through the summer as well. And although there are a small people, a handful of people that prefer asynchronous.
But I guess my question, this isn't new, but for this year and the situation with COVID, the online has become a normal thing. So having online summer school sounds like the right step. And we'll also have to bolster staff potentially, because there's probably going to be more students who need it because of COVID and the pandemic.
That's correct.
So we would like to ask the board if we could advertise for those teachers now to start preparing.
I agree.
Can I do one thing? Can I go back to the Duquesne meeting?
Sure.
We're waiting to get formal notice, but we're not waiting to get formal notice. There's conversations and planning happening, because if we have 7th and 8th grade students from Duquesne removed, there's a lot of planning that has to go into anticipation for that. And we're not waiting. Like, I know that you're not, we didn't cover it. You briefly talked about the meeting, but we're not waiting for that. The administration's planning and anticipating.
Yeah, through our staffing and schedule.
Right.
We're planning that.
I just don't want to make it appear that we're waiting for this letter to do something. We've been working on this for many months now.
Right, because PD actually, their due date to let us know is June 30th.
Which is too late. Right.
Mr. Scholes, have they officially approved it, the state?
The state has never said they would approve it or not approve it. They're going off that they have it signed by the judge, their Fourth Amendment, and that's good enough, and they're moving forward. PD has requested some information. They provided, I guess, satisfactory, so they're moving ahead with it. I mean, Ms. Solomon, anything to add? Ms. Solomon and I were on that meeting. Anything else to add to that?
No, I think you much covered it, Mr. Solomon.
Is it this coming fall that they're taking 7th and 8th grade, or just 7th?
The 7th grade, this for 2020, 21, 22, then the 8th grade goes in 22, 23, so.
And I guess
The idea was they didn't want to pull back students that were in 7th grade here, take them there for a year and then bring them back.
Well, my concern long-term is that, because we've made a large investment in those kids, and I just hope that they don't get pulled back and then they'll want to bounce them back here again in 5 or 10 years or something. I mean, is it a Christian, maybe legally, is there any way to say, hey, I mean, we did what we could for these kids, but...
Well, of course, we want them to be successful, so we will see how this goes. If for some reason they're not successful in incorporating the students back in where they're effectively, learning and succeeding, and they approach us, they would have to approach us again, and we would have to agree again to take those students back.
I mean, the students are going to be coming here in 9th grade.
Correct, but there
I
is
think-
long-term plans to remove them as well,
from Duquesne School.
and take them back into Duquesne.
That's in their future plan.
Correct.
Do you know approximately how many 7th grade students we're talking about?
I believe 35, 36 that would be coming to us this year.
We are losing 36 seniors, I believe.
Are they still trying to say they're only going to take back the kids that aren't on IEPs? Wasn't that something they were throwing around?
They're keeping all their students.
Okay.
We're not sharing services now.
Okay.
And they are going to do their own athletic program. That was discussed at one point whether we would still do their athletic program. They've decided to take that all in-house, so we won't have any shared services for the 7th grade.
And then the year after that, or the 8th grade?
Correct.
Just high school? Until they have their own high school?
I think that's the long-term plan. I don't want to get too ahead of what their plans are because before it is just the 2-year phase out of 7th and 8th grade. I think once they establish how that's going, then there will be more.
Yeah, I just think it's a little bit, it's just, it seems sudden, and,
Very
things like this need to be planned. And,
Well, I mean, I think in all fairness, many of us were not here at the time that they built this middle school in anticipation of those students and increased volume here. And so, that took a lot of time and have them brought back. And of course, we want all the students to be successful. We want every district to be successful. So maybe we have the need help a little bit, but we have been kind of throwing a curveball here with Mr. Souls and Mr. Sullivan jumped in and now that we kind of know the long-term plan too, after this, I think that we'll be better prepared.
And I think the sad part is a lot of work went in to make this smooth. It's been over a decade, and now those kids have been integrated. They're being pulled back, and it's just sad. I hate to see them to lose those kids because they're going to probably get lesser opportunity than what we have based on our size.
yeah, I worry that the community there, I don't know who's speaking for them, if they have a voice on the decision somebody's making.
They supposedly did a survey of those students to determine whether they wanted to stay there. And we were told that a majority wanted to remain as they came. I know we asked for copies of those surveys. I don't know if they were given to us, but that's what has been reported to PD and to the district.
I just wanted to revisit that because I know you're working hard on it. And breeze past that bullet point. And it's a lot of work and it's very important. And I think it's important to all of us that we want to see all of our students succeed. And we want to work together with all of our surrounding communities to make it the best as possible for all of our students, making sure that everybody has all of the opportunities afforded to them. So I think when this first was brought up, I was surprised to hear about it. And now that it's actually going to happen is even more.
Well, we weren't notified of the presentations report. We weren't noticed. And legally, I guess we don't have to be noticed. It's not anywhere in the agreement. But to Mr. Marshall's point, we put a lot of resources in at the middle school to make that smooth transition. And as this happens, we may have to move that up to high school for the smoother transition in 9th grade. I know Mr. Souls and Mr. Solomon are making sure some of those things and making sure the students are prepared, making sure their curriculum is lining up with ours. Those are discussions we want to have to make sure those students, when they come to the high school, are prepared to enter our curriculum and it's as smooth a transition as possible. I think that'll be our next conversation.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is graduation. It will occur it's scheduled to occur on June 11th. It will be outside. We'll work with Mr. Lick and his administrative staff on preparing. It will be similar to what occurred last year. Maybe not 3, maybe down to 2 sessions, but definitely in the same mold that occurred last year.
And that's so we're looking at the COVID capacity restrictions, and that's what's determining that. And then are there going to be is it going to be limited to tickets per student? And I'm not asking you probably don't know how many tickets, but I'm just asking if that's the idea.
Yes, for attendance, it'll be taken out. So each student will be provided X amount. The pre-K counts grant that we run at the Homeville Elementary School. We have two sessions, half-day sessions. We're not fulfilling our quota. We need 40 students to make that work. They did not cut funding this year, but they will next year if we don't fill all 40 slots, or if we go back to a half-time program where we only take on 20. we were asking the committee if we could seek, possibly seeing if the IU would like to run our program. And they would then take over the program, but utilize our space over there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you. I would like to ask the committee to go ahead and advertise for our ESY teachers and paras for the summer, and that's the extended school year. Those are for the students with disabilities to get a little more education throughout the summer. So we're asking if we could go ahead and advertise for those people now to get that plan in place.
Yes.
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 Mrs. Silvers, in preparing for our inclusion model that we're moving towards, we're looking to bring in professional development from the ARC PA, and they're going to provide us at no cost a universal design for learning that's actually preparing the classroom for all learners. And we will start taking that on May 18th on our next in-service day to start implementing that. I'd like to ask the committee if we could go ahead and add the AIU agreement for kindergarten transition. I believe this is done every year. It's just an agreement to help with the transition from the outside of kindergarten kids into our building.
Yes, I'm okay with that.
Yes.
Yes.
We'd like the committee to approve us putting the UPMC agreement on the agenda for next week. And what that is we are agreeing to pay, I believe it's $75 a student if they are hospitalized, and UPMC will provide educational services to those children. It's a normal yearly an agreement we do.
Yes.
Yes.
And the last thing there under education, the revised COVID-19 reopening parameters. I sent a link on the agenda as well as what I said about. They have changed, and we're going to be in the process of updating our plan again to meet those requirements.
And this is just a quick question. This is the number of cases based on the size of school plus the transmission rate in our area combined. And then they give us the recommendation of how many days to close the school and whatnot.
Yes, if you go to PD's website, it's right there on the front page. For schools less than 500, schools for more than 9 to 500, and then more than 900, they have the parameters set up for them.
And these are the parameters we've been using. This is a new version.
This will be a new version.
Can we link to this on our webpage once we start
Yes.
using it?
Yes. I believe Mr. Walsh is already working on doing it.
Okay. Because I think the current version is up there now. And I know that we've received questions about why things are closing and why things hit a certain threshold and where we get those numbers from. And this is where we could get those numbers from.
All right, on the policy, we already have on our agenda the 100 policies that we just received and we updated. We met on Monday to get those all squared away. And then also policy 919 for the booster groups is also on our list for a first reading for next week as well. If I could take a step back, we'd like to, under safety and transportation, we'd like to congratulate all our security guards who are now NASRO trained and certified. So all our security guards within the district have a national certification. Then also on the table at the beginning of the meeting, I handed out our structural report for the wall over at Homeville. Ms. Welch, would you like to speak to that at all? We just got it today, so we really didn't diagnose it and dissect it yet. Just so you have the preliminaries there.
So they did get a call?
I just gave them a call.
Okay, yeah, I would take a look at it, and, just Joe and I talking about it, looking at it a little bit this afternoon. We would recommend, moving forward with having, specifications drawn up by this company and advertise for bidders to repair this wall.
Yeah, it's a repair, not a replace. It sounded like they could repair some of it.
Yeah, it seems like
Like
pretty
coded.
much what the one company came out and gave us an estimate on is couldn't satisfy it, maybe with some additional work.
Like one spot's pretty bad, and the rest of it would be like remediated.
So what we'd like to do is get a proposal from them as to what this would cost for them to do the RFP, so we can advertise following their recommendation if they get.
So you're gonna ask to put on the agenda permission for spend money on this company to help write it on the specification, and then that would become the RFP.
Yes, the RFP, just basically whatever the price would be for them to draw up the RFP,
Yep.
then permission to advertise the RFP so we can get this rolling.
Is this money in the construction fund or phase 4?
That would, yeah, this wall will be repaired with money out of one of the two construction funds, and that's left over.
We can wait till Tuesday if the committee wants to go ahead and read that report first and take it in a little bit. Then if you just let us know you're an improvement of it, we'll add it on to the agenda for next week for the specs, just to get the specs.
We're looking for guidance to reach out and say, hey, get us a price on what it will cost to write the specs, and then that's what will be on the agenda next week.
No, I think it's a good way to go about it, because, I mean, this is an engineering firm, they're gonna know how to do it right. What we don't wanna do is have to repair it again.
Right, they would oversee to make sure it got done right.
Right.
That concludes the committee report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Steel Center report, Ms. Costello, you said you'll give that next week.
Thank you.
Solicitor's report?
We'll be giving them.
Great. Old business? New business? Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. Costello. Second by Mr. Bennett.